Residential Building Inspector Exam Course Preface Introduction. The International Residential Code establishes minimum requirements for one- and two-family dwellings in townhouses using prescriptive provisions. It is founded on broad-based principles that make possible the use of new materials and new building designs. This 2018 edition is fully compatible with all of the international codes. Chapter 1. Scope and Administration. R105.2. Work exempt from permit. Exemption from permit requirements of this code shall not be deemed to grant authorization for any work to be done in any manner in violation of the provisions of this code, or any laws or ordinances of this jurisdiction. Permit shall be not required for the following. Building 1. One-story detached accessory structures, provided that the floor area does not exceed 200 square feet. 2. Fences not over 7 feet high. 3. Retaining walls that are not over 4 feet in height, measured from the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall, unless supporting a surcharge. 4. Water tanks supported directly upon grade, if the capacity does not exceed 5,000 gallons and the ratio of height to diameter or width does not exceed 2:1. 5. Sidewalks and driveways. 6. Painting, papering, tiling, carpeting, cabinets, countertops, and similar finish work. 7. Prefabricated swimming pools that are less than 24 inches deep. 8. Swings and other playground equipment. 9. Window awnings supported by an exterior wall that does not project more than 54 inches from the exterior wall and do not require additional support. 10. Decks not exceeding 200 square feet in area, that are not more than 30 inches above grade at any point and are not attached to a dwelling, and do not serve the exit door required by Section R311.4. R109.1.1. Foundation Inspection. Inspection of the foundation shall be made after poles or piers are set, or trenches or basement areas are excavated and any required forms erected, and any required reinforcing steel is in place and supported prior to the placing of concrete. The foundation inspection shall include excavations for thickened slabs intended for the support of bearing walls, partitions, structural supports, or equipment and special requirements for wood foundations. R109.1.5.1. Fire Resistance Rated Construction Inspection. Where fire resistance rated construction is required between dwelling units or due to location on property, the building official shall require an inspection of such construction after lathing or gypsum board or gypsum panel products are in place, but before any plaster is applied, or before board or panel joints and fasteners are taped and finished. Chapter 3. Building Planning. R301.8. Nominal Sizes. For the purposes of this code, dimensions of lumber specified shall be deemed to be nominal dimensions, unless specifically designated as actual dimensions. R302.1. Exterior Walls. Construction, projections, openings, and penetrations of exterior walls of dwellings and accessory buildings shall comply with Table R302.1.1, or dwellings equipped throughout with an automatic sprinkler system installed in accordance with Section P20904 shall comply with Table R302.1.2. Exceptions: walls, projections, openings, or penetrations in walls perpendicular to the line used to determine the fire separation distance. Foundation vents installed in compliance with this code are permitted. R302.2.2. Common Walls. Common walls separating townhouses shall be assigned a fire resistance rating in accordance with Item 1 or 2. The common wall shared by two townhouses shall be constructed without plumbing or mechanical equipment, ducts, or vents in the cavity of the common wall. The wall shall be rated for fire exposure from both sides and shall extend to and be tight against exterior walls and the underside of the roof sheathing. R302.12. Draft Stopping. In combustible construction where there is usable space both above and below the concealed space of a floor ceiling assembly, draft stops shall be installed so that the area of the concealed space does not exceed 1,000 square feet. Draft stopping shall divide the concealed space into approximately equal areas. Where the assembly is enclosed by a floor membrane above and a ceiling membrane below, draft stopping shall be provided in floor ceiling assemblies under the following circumstances. 1. Ceiling is suspended under the floor framing. Floor framing is constructed of truss-type, open web, or perforated members. R302.10.1 Insulation. Insulating materials installed with floor ceiling assemblies, roof ceiling assemblies, wall assemblies, crawl spaces, and attics shall comply with the requirement of this section. They shall exhibit a flame spread index not to exceed 25 and a smoke developed index not to exceed 450, where tested in accordance with ASTM E84 or UL 723. Insulating materials, where tested in accordance with the requirements of this section, shall include facings where used, such as vapor retarders, vapor permeable membranes, and similar coverings. Exceptions. Where such materials are installed in concealed spaces, the flame spread index and smoke developed index limitations do not apply to the facings, provided that the facing is installed in substantial contact with the unexposed surface of the ceiling, floor, or wall finish. 2. Cellulose fiber loose fill insulation that is not spray applied and that complies with the requirements of section R302.10.3 shall not be required to meet the flame spread index requirements, but shall be required to meet a smoke developed index of not more than 450, where tested in accordance with CAN ULC S102.2. 3. Foam plastic insulation shall comply with section R316. Table R302.1, 2. Exterior walls, dwellings with fire sprinklers. B. The fire resistance rating shall be permitted to be reduced to 0 hours on the underside of the eave overhang if fire blocking is provided from the wall top plate to the underside of the roof sheathing. R302.1.1 Opening protection. Openings from a private garage directly into a room used for sleeping purposes shall not be permitted. Other openings between the garage and residence shall be equipped with solid wood doors not less than 1 3/8 inches in thickness, solid or honeycomb core steel doors not less than 13/8 inches thick, or 20-minute fire-rated doors equipped with a self-closing or automatic closing device. 2. Where fire sprinkler systems in accordance with section P20904 is not provided, the common wall shall not be less than a 2-hour fire resistance rated wall assembly tested in accordance with ASTM E119 UL263 or section 703.3 of the International Building Code. R302.3 Two-family dwellings. Dwelling units in two-family dwellings shall be separated from each other by wall and floor assemblies having not less than a 1-hour fire resistance rating, where tested in accordance with ASTM E119 UL263 or section 703.3 of the International Building Code. Fire resistance rated floor, ceiling, and wall assemblies shall extend to and be tight against the exterior wall, and wall assemblies shall extend from the foundation to the underside of the roof sheathing. R302.11 Fire blocking. In combustible construction, fire blocking shall be provided to cut off both vertical and horizontal concealed draft openings, and to form an effective fire barrier between stories, and between a top story and the roof space. Fire blocking shall be provided in wood-framed construction in the following locations. 1. In concealed spaces of stud walls and partitions, including furred spaces, and parallel rows of studs or staggered studs as follows. 1.1. Vertically at the ceiling and floor levels. 1.2. Horizontally at intervals not exceeding 10 feet. R302.11.1 Fire blocking materials. Except as provided in section R302.11, item 4, fire blocking shall consist of the following materials. 1. 2-inch nominal lumber. 2. 2 thicknesses of 1-inch nominal lumber with broken lap joints. 3. 1 thickness of 23 32nd-inch wood structural panels with joints backed by 23 32nd-inch wood structural panels. 4. 1 thickness of 3/4-inch particle board with joints backed by 3/4-inch particle board. 5. 1/2-inch gypsum board. 6. 1/4-inch cement-based millboard. 7. Bats or blankets of mineral wool or glass fiber, or other approved materials installed in such a manner as to be securely retained in place. 8. Cellulose insulation, installed as tested in accordance with ASTM E119 or UL263 for the specific application. R302.2.4 Parapets for townhouses. Parapets constructed in accordance with Section R302.2.5 shall be constructed for townhouses as an extension of exterior walls or common walls in accordance with the following. 1. Where roof surfaces adjacent to the wall or walls are at the same elevation, the parapet shall extend not less than 30 inches above the roof surfaces. R302.14 Combustible insulation clearance. Combustible insulation shall be separated not less than 3 inches from recessed luminaires, fan motors, and other heat-producing devices. R301.1 Habitable rooms. Habitable rooms shall have an aggregate glazing area of not less than 8% of the floor area of such rooms. Natural ventilation shall be through windows, skylights, doors, louvers, or other approved openings to the outdoor air. Such openings shall be provided with ready access or shall otherwise be readily controllable by the building occupants. The openable area to the outdoor shall not be less than 4% of the floor area being ventilated. R303.6 Outside opening protection. Air exhaust and intake openings that terminate outdoors shall be protected with corrosion-resistant screens, louvers, or grills, having an opening size of not less than 1/4 inch and a maximum opening size of 1/2 inch in any dimension. The opening shall be protected against local weather conditions. Outdoor air exhaust and intake openings shall meet the provisions for exterior wall opening protectives in accordance with this code. R305.1 Minimum height. Habitable space, hallways, and portions of basements containing these spaces shall have a ceiling height of not less than 7 feet. Bathrooms, toilet rooms, and laundry rooms shall have a ceiling height of not less than 6 feet 8 inches. R307.2 Bathtub and shower spaces. Bathtub and shower floors and walls above bathtubs with installed shower heads and in shower compartments shall be finished with a non-absorbent surface. Such wall surfaces shall extend to a height of not less than 6 feet above the floor. R308.6.2 Materials. Glazing materials shall be limited to the following. 1. Laminated glass with not less than a 1/1500 inch polyvinyl butyl interlayer for glass panes 16 square feet or less in area, located such that the highest point of the glass is not more than 12 feet above the walking surface. For higher and larger sizes, the interlayer thickness shall not be less than 3/100 inch. 2. Fully tempered glass. 3. High-strengthened glass. 4. Wire glass. 5. Approved rigid plastics. R308.4.2 Glazing adjacent to doors. Glazing in an individual fixed or operable panel adjacent to a door shall be considered to be a hazardous location, where the bottom exposed edge of the glazing is less than 60 inches above the floor or walking surface, and it meets either of the following conditions. 1. Where the glazing is within 24 inches of either side of the door, in the plane of the door, in a closed position. R309.3 Flood hazard areas. For buildings located in flood hazard areas as established by Table R301.2.1, garage floors shall be one of the following. 1. Elevated to or above the design flood elevation, as determined in accordance with Section R322. 2. Located below the design flood elevation, provided that the floors are at or above grade on not less than one side, are used solely for parking, building access, or storage, meet the requirements of Section R322, and are otherwise constructed in accordance with this code.
Chapter 3 Building Planning. R310.2.2 Windowsill height. Where a window is provided as the emergency escape and rescue opening, it shall have a sill height of not more than 44 inches, 1,118 millimeters, above the floor. Where the sill height is below grade, it shall be provided with a window well in accordance with Section R310.2.3. R310.2.1 Minimum opening area. Emergency and escape rescue openings shall have a net clear opening of not less than 5.7 square feet, 0.530 square meters. The net clear opening dimensions required by this section shall be obtained by the normal operation of the emergency escape and rescue opening from the inside. The net clear height of the opening shall not be less than 24 inches, 610 millimeters, and the net clear width shall not be less than 20 inches, 508 millimeters. R311.2 Egress Door. Not less than one egress door shall be provided for each dwelling unit. The egress door shall be side-hinged and shall provide a clear width of not less than 32 inches, 813 millimeters, where measured between the face of the door and the stop, with the door open 90 degrees, 1.57 radius. The clear height of the door opening shall not be less than 78 inches, 1,981 millimeters in height, measured from the top of the threshold to the bottom of the stop. Other doors shall not be required to comply with these minimum dimensions. Egress doors shall be readily openable from inside the dwelling without the use of a key or special knowledge or effort. R311.6 Hallways. The width of a hallway shall not be less than 3 feet, 914 millimeters. R311.7 Stairways. R311.7.1 Width. Stairways shall not be less than 36 inches, 914 millimeters, in clear width at all points above the permitted handrail height and below the required headroom height. The clear width of stairways at and below the handrail height, including treads and landings, shall not be less than 31.5 inches, 787 millimeters, where a handrail is installed on one side, and 27 inches, 698 millimeters, where handrails are installed on both sides. Exception: the width of spiral stairways shall be in accordance with section R311.7.10.1. R311.7.2 Headroom. The headroom in stairways shall not be less than 6 feet 8 inches, 2,032 millimeters, measured vertically from the sloped line adjoining the tread nosing or from the floor surface of the landing or platform on that portion of the stairway. R311.7.10.1 Spiral Stairways. The clear width at and below the handrails at spiral stairways shall not be less than 26 inches, 660 millimeters, and the walk line radius shall not be greater than 24.5 inches, 622 millimeters. Each tread shall have a depth of not less than 6 3/4 inches, 171 millimeters, at the walk line. Treads shall be identical, and the rise shall not be more than 9.5 inches, 241 millimeters. Headroom shall not be less than 6 feet 6 inches, 1,982 millimeters. R311.7.5.2 Stairway Treads. The tread depth shall not be less than 10 inches, 254 millimeters. The tread depth shall be measured horizontally between the vertical planes of the foremost projection of adjacent treads and at a right angle to the tread's leading edge. The greatest tread depth within any flight of stairs shall not exceed the smallest by more than 3/8 inch, 9.5 millimeters. R311.7.5.1 Risers. The riser height shall not be more than 7 3/4 inches, 196 millimeters. The riser shall be measured vertically between leading edges of the adjacent treads. The greatest riser height within any flight of stairs shall not exceed the smallest by more than 3/8 inch, 9.5 millimeters. Risers shall be vertical or sloped from the underside of the nosing of the tread above at an angle not more than 30 degrees, 0.51 radius from the vertical. At open risers, openings located more than 30 inches, 762 millimeters as measured vertically, to the floor or grade below shall not permit the passage of a 4-inch diameter, 102 millimeter sphere. R311.7.5.2.1 Winder Treads. Winder treads shall have a tread depth of not less than 10 inches, 254 millimeters, measured between the vertical planes of the foremost projection of adjacent treads at the intersections with the walk line. Winder treads shall have a tread depth of not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters at any point within the clear width of the stair. Within any flight of stairs, the largest winder tread depth at the walk line shall not exceed the smallest winder tread by more than 3/8 inch, 9.5 millimeters. Consistently shaped winders at the walk line shall be allowed within the same flight of stairs as rectangular treads and shall not be required to be within 3/8 inch, 9.5 millimeters, of the rectangular tread depth. R311.7.8.5 Grip size. Required handrails shall be of one of the following types or provide equivalent graspability. Handrails with a circular cross-section shall have an outside diameter of not less than 1¼ inches, 32 millimeters, and not greater than 2 inches, 51 millimeters. If the handrail is not circular, it shall have a perimeter of not less than 4 inches, 102 millimeters, and not greater than 6¼ inches, 160 millimeters, and a cross-section of not more than 2¼ inches, 57 millimeters. Edges shall have a radius of not less than 0.01 inch, 0.25 millimeters. R311.7.8 Handrails. Handrails shall be provided on not less than one side of each flight of stairs with 4 or more risers. R303.7 Interior stairway illumination. Interior stairways shall be provided with an artificial light source to illuminate the landings and treads. The light source shall be capable of illuminating treads and landings to levels of not less than 1 foot candle, 11 lux, as measured at the center of treads and landings. There shall be a wall switch at each floor level to control the light source where the stairway has 6 or more risers. Exception: a switch is not required where remote, central, or automatic control of lighting is provided. R311.7.8.2 Handrail projection. Handrails shall not project more than 4½ inches, 114 millimeters, on either side of the stairway. Exception: where nosings of landings, floors, or passing flights project into the stairway, reducing the clearance at passing handrails. Handrails shall project not more than 6½ inches, 165 millimeters, into the stairway, provided that the stair width and handrail clearance are not reduced to less than that required. R311.8.2 Landings required. There shall be a floor or landing at the top and bottom of each ramp, where doors open onto ramps and where ramps change directions. The width of the landing perpendicular to the ramp slope shall not be less than 36 inches, 914 millimeters. R311.8.3 Handrails required. Handrails shall be provided on not less than one side of ramps exceeding a slope of 1 unit vertical in 12 units horizontal, 8.33% slope. R310.2.3 Window wells. The horizontal area of the window well shall not be less than 9 square feet, 0.92 square meters, with a horizontal projection and width of not less than 36 inches, 914 millimeters. The area of the window well shall allow the emergency escape and rescue opening to be fully opened. R311.3.1 Floor elevations at the required egress doors. Landings or finished floors at the required egress door shall not be more than 1½ inches, 38 millimeters lower than the top of the threshold. Exception: the landing or floor on the exterior side shall not be more than 7¾ inches, 196 millimeters, below the top of the threshold, provided that the door does not swing over the landing or floor. R314.2.2 Alterations, repairs, and additions. Where alterations, repairs, or additions requiring a permit occur, the individual dwelling unit shall be equipped with smoke alarms, located as required for new dwellings. Exceptions: 1. Work involving the exterior surfaces of dwellings, such as the replacement of roofing or siding, the addition or replacement of windows or doors, or the addition of a porch or deck. 2. installation, alteration, or repairs of plumbing or mechanical systems. R314.3 Location. Smoke alarms shall be installed in the following locations: 1. In each sleeping room. 2. Outside each separate sleeping area in the immediate vicinity of the bedrooms. 3. On each additional story of the dwelling, including basements and habitable attics, and not including crawl spaces and uninhabitable attics. In dwellings or dwelling units with split levels and without an intervening door between the adjacent levels, a smoke alarm installed on the upper level shall suffice for the adjacent lower level, provided that the lower level is less than 1 full story below the upper level. R314.3 Location. Smoke alarms shall be installed in the following locations: 1. In each sleeping room. 2. Outside each separate sleeping area in the immediate vicinity of the bedrooms. 3. On each additional story of the dwelling, including basements and habitable attics, and not including crawl spaces and uninhabitable attics. In dwellings or dwelling units with split levels and without an intervening door between the adjacent levels, a smoke alarm installed on the upper level shall suffice for the adjacent lower level, provided that the lower level is less than 1 full story below the upper level. R314.6 Power source. Smoke alarms shall receive their primary power from the building wiring, where such wiring is served from a commercial source, and where primary power is interrupted, shall receive power from a battery. Wiring shall be permanent and without a disconnecting switch other than those required for overcurrent protection. Exceptions. 1. Smoke alarms shall be permitted to be battery operated where installed in buildings without commercial power. 2. Smoke alarms installed in accordance with Section R314.2.2 shall be permitted to be battery powered. R316.3 Surface burning characteristics. Unless otherwise allowed in Section R316.5, foam plastic or foam plastic cores used as a component in manufactured assemblies used in building construction shall have a flame spread index of not more than 75 and shall have a smoke developed index of not more than 450 when tested in the maximum thickness and density intended for use in accordance with ASTM E84 or UL 723. Loose fill-type foam plastic insulation shall be tested as board stock for the flame spread index and smoke developed index. R317.3.2 Fastenings for wood foundations. Fastenings, including nuts and washers for wood foundations, shall be as required in AWC PWF, American Wood Council and Permanent Wood Foundation. R317.1.5 Exposed glued laminated timbers. The portions of glued laminated timbers that form the structural supports of a building or other structure and are exposed to weather and not properly protected by a roof, eave, or similar covering shall be pressure treated with preservative or be manufactured from naturally durable preservative treated wood. R317.1 Location required. Protection of wood and wood-based products from decay shall be provided in the following locations by the use of naturally durable wood or wood that is preservative treated in accordance with AWPA U1. Wood siding, sheathing, and wall framing on the exterior of a building having a clearance of less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters, from the ground or less than 2 inches, 51 millimeters, measured vertically from concrete steps, porch slabs, patio slabs, and similar horizontal surfaces exposed to the weather. R317.1.4 Wood columns. Wood columns shall be approved wood of natural decay resistance or approved pressure preservative treated wood. Exceptions. 1. Columns exposed to the weather or in basements where supported by concrete piers or metal pedestals projecting 1 inch, 25 millimeters, above a concrete floor or 6 inches, 152 millimeters, above exposed earth and the earth is covered by an approved impervious moisture barrier. 2. Columns in enclosed crawl spaces or unexcavated areas located within the periphery of the building where supported by a concrete pier or metal pedestal at a height more than 8 inches, 203 millimeters, from exposed earth and the earth is covered by an impervious moisture barrier. 3. Deck posts supported by concrete piers or metal pedestals projecting not less than 1 inch, 25 millimeters, above a concrete floor or 6 inches, 152 millimeters, above exposed earth. R317.2.1 Required information. The required quality mark on each piece of pressure preservative treated lumber or plywood shall contain the following information. 1. Identification of the treating plant. 2. Type of preservative. 3. The minimum preservative retention. 4. End use for which the product was treated. 5. Standard to which the product was treated. 6. Identity of the approved inspection agency. 7. The designation dry, if applicable. R317.3.1 Fasteners for preservative-treated wood. Fasteners, including nuts and washers for preservative-treated wood, shall be of hot-dipped zinc-coated galvanized steel, stainless steel, silicon bronze, or copper. Staples shall be of stainless steel. Coating types and weights for connectors in contact with preservative-treated wood shall be in accordance with the connector manufacturer's recommendations. In the absence of manufacturer's recommendations, not less than ASTM A653 type G185 zinc-coated galvanized steel or equivalent shall be used. Exceptions. 1. Half-inch diameter 12.7 millimeter or greater steel bolts. 2. Fasteners other than nails, staples, and timber rivets shall be permitted to be of mechanically deposited zinc-coated steel with coating weights in accordance with ASTM B695 Class 55 minimum. 3. Plain carbon steel fasteners in SBX DOT and zinc borate preservative treated wood in an interior dry environment shall be permitted. R322.2 Flood hazard areas, including A zones. R322.2.1 Elevation requirements. Buildings and structures in flood hazard areas, including flood hazard areas designated as coastal A zones, shall have the lowest floors elevated to or above the base flood elevation plus 1 foot, 305 millimeters, or the design flood elevation, whichever is higher. R322.3.5 Walls below design flood elevation. Walls and partitions are permitted below the elevated floor, provided that such walls and partitions are not part of the structural support of the building or structure. R301.2.2.6 Irregular buildings. Wood light frame wall construction, one end of a braced wall panel, shall be permitted to extend more than 1 foot, 305 millimeters, over an opening not more than 8 feet, 2,438 millimeters in width, in the wall below, provided that the opening includes a header in accordance with all of the following. The header is composed of 1. Not less than 1 2x12 or 2 2x10 for an opening not more than 4 feet, 1,219 millimeters wide. 2. Not less than 2 2x12 or 3 2x10 for an opening not more than 6 feet, 1,829 millimeters in width. 3. Not less than 3 2x12 or 4 2x10 for an opening not more than 8 feet, 2,438 millimeters in width. Chapter 4. Foundations. R401.3 Drainage. Surface drainage shall be diverted to a storm sewer conveyance or other approved point of collection that does not create a hazard. Lots shall be graded to drain surface water away from foundation walls. The grade shall fall not fewer than 6 inches, 152 millimeters, within the first 10 feet, 3,048 millimeters. Exception: where lot lines, walls, slopes, or other physical barriers prohibit 6 inches, 152 millimeters of fall within 10 feet, 3,048 millimeters, drains or swales shall be constructed to ensure drainage away from the structure. Impervious surfaces within 10 feet, 3,048 millimeters of the building foundation shall be sloped not less than 2% away from the building. R402.2 Concrete. Concrete shall have a minimum specified compressive strength of FC, as shown in Table R402.2. Concrete subject to moderate or severe weathering, as indicated in Table R301.2.1, shall be air-entrained as specified in Table R402.2. The maximum weight of fly ash, other pozzolans, silica fume, slag, or blended cements that is included in concrete mixtures for garage floor slabs and for exterior porches, carport slabs, and steps that will be exposed to de-icing chemicals shall not exceed the percentages of the total weight of cementitious materials specified in Section 19.3.3.4 of ACI 318. Materials used to produce concrete and testing thereof shall comply with the applicable standards listed in Chapter 19 and 20 of ACI 318 or ACI 332. R402.3.1 Precast concrete foundation materials. Materials used to produce precast concrete foundations shall meet the following requirements. 1. All concrete used in the manufacture of precast concrete foundations shall have a minimum compressive strength of 5,000 psi, 34,470 kPa at 28 days. Concrete exposed to a freezing and thawing environment shall be air-entrained with a minimum total air content of 5%. 2. Structural reinforcing steel shall meet the requirements of ASTM A615, A706, or A996. The minimum yield strength of reinforcing steel shall be 40,000 psi, grade 40, 276 MPa. Steel reinforcement for precast concrete foundation walls shall have a minimum concrete cover of 3/4 inch, 19.1 millimeters. 3. Panel-to-panel connections shall be made with grade 2 steel fasteners. 4. The use of non-structural fibers shall conform to ASTM C1116. R403.1.1 Minimum footing size. Footing projections, P, shall not be less than 2 inches, 51 millimeters, and shall not exceed the thickness of the footing. Footing thickness and projection for fireplaces shall be in accordance with Section R1001.2. The size of footings supporting piers and columns shall be based on the tributary load and allowable soil pressure in accordance with Table R401.4.1. R403.1.4 Minimum footing depth. Exterior footings shall be placed not less than 12 inches, 305 millimeters below the undisturbed ground surface. Where applicable, the depth of footings shall also conform to sections R403.1.4.1 through R403.1.4.2. R403.1.3.2 Masonry stem walls with concrete footings. In seismic design categories D0, D1, and D2, where a masonry stem wall is supported on a concrete footing, not fewer than one number 4 vertical bar shall be installed at not more than 4 feet, 1,219 millimeters on center. The vertical bar shall have a standard hook and extend to the bottom of the footing, and shall have support and cover as specified in section R403.1.3.5.3, and extend not less than 14 inches, 357 millimeters, into the stem wall. Standard hooks shall comply with section R608.5.4.5. Not fewer than one number 4 horizontal bar shall be installed within 12 inches, 305 millimeters, of the top of the wall, and one number 4 horizontal bar shall be located 3 to 4 inches, 76 millimeters to 102 millimeters, from the bottom of the footing. Masonry stem walls shall be solid grouted. R403.1.4.1 Frost Protection. Except where otherwise protected from frost, foundation walls, piers, and other permanent supports of buildings and structures shall be protected from frost by one or more of the following methods. 1. Extended below the frost line specified in Table R301.1.2.1. 2. Constructed in accordance with Section R403.3. 3. Constructed in accordance with ASCE 32. 4. Erected on solid rock. Footings shall not bear on frozen soil unless the frozen condition is permanent. R403.1.3.5.3 Support and cover reinforced concrete. Reinforcement shall be secured in the proper location in the forms with tie wire or other bar support system to prevent displacement during the concrete placement operation. Steel reinforcement in concrete cast against the earth shall have a minimum cover of 3 inches, 75 millimeters. Minimum cover for reinforcement in concrete cast in removable forms that will be exposed to the earth or weather shall be 1.5 inches, 38 millimeters, for number 5 bars and smaller, and 2 inches, 50 millimeters, for number 6 bars and larger. For concrete cast in removable forms that will not be exposed to the earth or weather, and for concrete cast in stay-in-place forms, minimum cover shall be 3/4 inch, 19 millimeters. R403.1.3.5.4 Lap splices. Vertical and horizontal reinforcement shall be the longest lengths practical. Where splices are necessary in reinforcement, the length of lap splice shall be in accordance with Table R608.5.4.1 and Figure R608.5.4.1. The maximum gap between non-contact parallel bars at a lap splice shall not exceed the smaller of 1/5 the required lap length and 6 inches, 152 millimeters. R403.1.5 Footing slope. The top surface of footings shall be level. The bottom surface of footings shall not have a slope exceeding 1 unit vertical in 10 units horizontal, 10% slope. Footings shall be stepped where it is necessary to change the elevation of the top surface of the footings, or where the slope of the bottom surface of the footings will exceed 1 unit vertical in 10 units horizontal, 10% slope. R404.1.6 Height above finished grade. Concrete and masonry foundation walls shall extend above the finished grade adjacent to the foundation at all points not less than 4 inches, 102 millimeters, where masonry veneer is used, and not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters, elsewhere. R404.1.3.3.4 Proportioning and slump of concrete. Proportions of materials for concrete shall be established to provide workability and consistency to permit concrete to be worked readily into forms and around reinforcement under conditions of placement to be employed, without segregation or excessive bleeding. Slump of concrete placed in removable forms shall not exceed 6 inches, 152 millimeters. Exception. Where approved, the slump is permitted to exceed 6 inches, 152 millimeters, for concrete mixtures that are resistant to segregation and are in accordance with the form manufacturer's requirements. Slump of concrete placed in stay-in-place forms shall exceed 6 inches, 152 millimeters. Slump of concrete shall be determined in accordance with ASTM C143. R407.3 Columns. Structural requirements. The columns shall be restrained to prevent lateral displacement at the bottom end. Wood columns shall not be less in nominal size than 4 inches by 4 inches, 102 millimeters by 102 millimeters. Steel columns shall not be less than 3-inch diameter, 76 millimeters. Schedule 40 pipe manufactured in accordance with ASTM A53 Grade B or approved equivalent. Exception. In seismic design categories A, B, and C, columns not more than 48 inches, 1,219 millimeters, in height on a pier or footing are exempt from the bottom end lateral displacement requirement within underfloor areas enclosed by a continuous foundation. R404.1.9 Isolated masonry piers. Isolated masonry piers shall be constructed in accordance with this section and the general masonry construction requirements of Section R606. Hollow masonry piers shall have a minimum nominal thickness of 8 inches, 203 millimeters, with a nominal height not exceeding 4 times the nominal thickness and a nominal length not exceeding 3 times the nominal thickness. Where hollow masonry units are solidly filled with concrete or grout, piers shall be permitted to have a nominal height not exceeding 10 times the nominal thickness. R406.1 Concrete and masonry foundation damp proofing. Except where required by Section R406.2 to be waterproofed, foundation walls that retain earth and enclose interior spaces and floors below grade shall be damp-proofed from the higher of A, the top of the footing, or B, 6 inches, 152 millimeters, below the top of the basement floor, to the finished grade. Masonry walls shall have not less than 3/8 inch, 9.5 millimeters, Portland cement parging applied to the exterior wall. The parging shall be damp-proofed in accordance with one of the following. 1. Bituminous coating. 2. 3 pounds per square yard, 1.63 kilograms per square meter of acrylic modified cement. 3. 1/8 inch, 3.2 millimeters, coat of surface bonding cement complying with ASTM C887. 4. Any material permitted for waterproofing in Section R406.2. 5. Other approved methods or materials. Exception. Parging of unit masonry walls is not required, where a material is approved for direct application to the masonry. Concrete walls shall be damp-proofed by applying any one of the listed damp-proofing materials or any one of the waterproofing materials listed in Section R406.2 to the exterior of the wall. There is a distinct difference between damp-proofing and waterproofing. Damp-proofing is intended to keep out soil moisture, while waterproofing keeps out both moisture and liquid water. R406.2 Concrete and Masonry Foundation Waterproofing. In areas where a high water table or other severe soil water conditions are known to exist, exterior foundation walls that retain earth and enclose interior spaces and floors below grade shall be waterproofed from the higher of A, the top of the footing, or B, 6 inches, 152 millimeters below the top of the basement floor, to the finished grade. 1. 2-ply hot-mopped felts. 2. 55-pound, 25-kilogram roll roofing. 3. 6 mil, 0.15 millimeter polyvinyl chloride. 4. 6 mil, 0.15 millimeter polyethylene. 5. 40 mil, 1 millimeter polymer modified asphalt. 6. 60 mil, 1.5 millimeter flexible polymer cement. 7. 1/8 inch 3 mm cement-based fiber-reinforced waterproof coating. 8. 60 mil 1.5 mm solvent-free liquid-applied synthetic rubber. R404.1.3.3.7.1 Steel reinforcement. Steel reinforcement shall comply with the requirements of ASTM A615, A706, or A996. ASTM A996 bars produced from rail steel shall be Type R. In buildings assigned to seismic design category A, B, or C, the minimum yield strength of reinforcing steel shall be 40,000 psi, grade 40, 276 MPa. In buildings assigned to seismic design category D0, D1, or D2, reinforcing steel shall comply with the requirements of ASTM A706 for low alloy steel with a minimum yield strength of 60,000 psi, grade 60, 414 MPa. R404.2.1 Lumber identification. Load-bearing lumber shall be identified by the grade mark of a lumber grading or inspection agency that has been approved by an accreditation body that complies with DOC PS 20. In lieu of a grade mark, a certificate of inspection issued by a lumber grading or inspection agency meeting the requirements of this section shall be accepted. Wood structural panels shall conform to DOC PS 1 or DOC PS 2 and shall be identified by a grade mark or certificate of inspection issued by an approved agency. R405.1 Concrete or masonry foundations. Drains shall be provided around concrete or masonry foundations that retain earth and enclose habitable or usable spaces located below grade. Drainage tiles, gravel, or crushed stone drains, perforated pipe, or other approved systems or materials shall be installed at or below the top of the footing or below the bottom of the slab and shall discharge by gravity or mechanical means into an approved drainage system. Gravel or crushed stone drains shall extend not less than 1 foot, 305 millimeters, beyond the outside edge of the footing and 6 inches, 152 millimeters above the top of the footing, and be covered with an approved filter membrane material. The top of open joints of drain tiles shall be protected with strips of building paper. Except where otherwise recommended by the drain manufacturer, perforated drains shall be surrounded with an approved filter membrane, or the filter membrane shall cover the washed gravel or crushed rock covering the drain. Drainage tiles or perforated pipe shall be placed on not less than 2 inches, 51 millimeters of washed gravel or crushed rock, not less than 1 sieve size larger than the tile joint opening or perforation, and covered with not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters of the same material. Exception: a drainage system is not required where the foundation is installed on well-drained ground or sand-gravel mixture soils according to the Unified Soil Classification System, Group 1 soils, as detailed in Table R405.1. R403.2 Footings for wood foundations. Footings for wood foundations shall be in accordance with figures R403.1.2 and R403.1.3. Gravel shall be washed and well graded. The maximum size stone shall not exceed 3/4 inch, 19.1 millimeters. Gravel shall be free from organic, clayey, or silty soils. Sand shall be coarse, not smaller than 1/16 inch, 1.6 millimeter, grains, and shall be free from organic, clayey, or silty soils. Crushed stone shall have a maximum size of 1/2 inch, 12.7 millimeters. R404.5.2 Precast concrete foundation design drawings. Precast concrete foundation wall design drawings shall be submitted to the building official and approved prior to installation. Drawings shall include, at a minimum, the following information. 1. Design loading as applicable. 2. Footing design and material. 3. Concentrated loads and their points of application. 4. Soil bearing capacity. 5. Maximum allowable total uniform load. 6. Seismic design category. 7. Basic wind speed. R403.3.2 Protection of horizontal insulation below ground. Horizontal insulation placed less than 12 inches, 305 millimeters below the ground surface, or that portion of horizontal insulation extending outward more than 24 inches, 610 millimeters, from the foundation edge, shall be protected against damage by use of a concrete slab or asphalt paving on the ground surface directly above the insulation, or by cementitious board, plywood rated for below-ground use, or other approved materials placed below ground directly above the top surface of the insulation. R404.1.5.3 Pier and curtain wall foundations. Use of pier and curtain wall foundations shall be permitted to support light frame construction not more than 2 stories in height, provided that the following requirements are met. 1. All load-bearing walls shall be placed on continuous concrete footings placed integrally with the exterior wall footings. 2. The minimum actual thickness of a load-bearing masonry wall shall be not less than 4 inches, 102 millimeters nominal, or 3 3/8 inches, 92 millimeters actual thickness. 3. In seismic design categories D0, D1, and D2, prescriptive reinforcement shall be provided in the horizontal and vertical direction. Provide minimum horizontal joint reinforcement of 2 number 9 gauge wires spaced not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters, or 1/4 inch in diameter, 6.44 millimeters wire at 10 inches, 254 millimeters on center vertically. Provide minimum vertical reinforcement of 1 number 4 bar at 48 inches, 1,220 millimeters on center horizontally grouted in place. R408.1 Ventilation. The underfloor space between the bottom of the floor joists and the earth under any building except space occupied by a basement shall have ventilation openings through foundation walls or exterior walls. The minimum net area of ventilation openings shall be not less than 1 square foot, 0.0929 square meters, for each 150 square feet, 14 square meters, of underfloor space area, unless the ground surface is covered by a Class 1 vapor retarder material. Where a Class 1 vapor retarder material is used, the minimum net area of ventilation openings shall be not less than 1 square foot, 0.0929 square meters, for each 1,500 square feet, 140 square meters of underfloor space area. One such ventilating opening shall be within 3 feet, 914 millimeters of each corner of the building. R408.4 Access. Access shall be provided to all underfloor spaces. Access openings through the floor shall be not smaller than 18 inches by 24 inches, 457 millimeters by 610 millimeters. Openings through a perimeter wall shall be not less than 16 inches by 24 inches, 407 millimeters by 610 millimeters. Where any portion of the through wall access is below grade, an areaway not less than 16 inches by 24 inches, 407 millimeters by 610 millimeters, shall be provided. The bottom of the areaway shall not be below the threshold of the access opening. Through wall access openings shall not be located under a door to the residence. See section M1305.1.4 for access requirements where mechanical equipment is located under floors. Chapter 5 Floors. R502.6 Bearing. The ends of each joist, beam, or girder shall have not less than 1.5 inches, 38 millimeters, of bearing on wood or metal, have not less than 3 inches of bearing, 76 millimeters, on masonry or concrete, or be supported by approved joist hangers. Alternatively, the ends of joists shall be supported on a 1 inch by 4 inch, 25 millimeter by 102 millimeter ribbon strip and shall be nailed to the adjacent stud. The bearing on masonry or concrete shall be direct, or a sill plate of 2 inch minimum, 51 millimeters, nominal thickness shall be provided under the joist, beam, or girder. The sill plate shall provide a minimum nominal bearing area of 48 square inches, 30,865 square millimeters. R502.6.1 Floor Systems. Joists framing from opposite sides over a bearing support shall lap not less than 3 inches, 76 millimeters, and shall be nailed together with a minimum 3 10D face nails. A wood or metal splice with strength equal to or greater than that provided by the nailed lap is permitted. R503.3.2 Floor Underlayment. Particle board floor underlayment shall conform to type PBU and shall not be less than 1/4 inch, 6.4 millimeters in thickness. R506.1 General. Concrete slab-on-ground floors shall be designed and constructed in accordance with the provisions of this section or ACI 332. Floors shall be a minimum 3.5 inches, 89 millimeters thick. For expansive soils, see section R403.1.8. The specified compressive strength of concrete shall be as set forth in section R402.2. R506.2.1 Fill. Fill material shall be free of vegetation and foreign material. The fill shall be compacted to ensure uniform support of the slab, and except where approved, the filled depths shall not exceed 24 inches, 610 millimeters, for clean sand or gravel, and 8 inches, 203 millimeters, for earth. Underfloor space. R502.8.1 Sawn lumber. Notches in solid lumber joists, rafters, and beams shall not exceed 1/6 of the depth of the member, shall not be longer than 1/3 of the depth of the member, and shall not be located in the middle 1/3 of the span. Notches at the ends of the member shall not exceed 1/4 the depth of the member. The tension side of members 4 inches, 102 millimeters, or greater in nominal thickness shall not be notched except at the ends of the members. The diameter of holes bored or cut into members shall not exceed 1/3 the depth of the member. Holes shall not be closer than 2 inches, 51 millimeters, to the top or bottom of the member, or to any other hole located in the member. Where the member is notched, the hole shall not be closer than 2 inches, 51 millimeters, to the notch. R502.8.1 Sawn lumber. Notches in solid lumber joists, rafters, and beams shall not exceed 1/6 of the depth of the member, shall not be longer than 1/3 of the depth of the member, and shall not be located in the middle 1/3 of the span. Notches at the ends of the member shall not exceed 1/4 the depth of the member. The tension side of members 4 inches, 102 millimeters, or greater in nominal thickness shall not be notched except at the ends of the members. The diameter of holes bored or cut into members shall not exceed 1/3 the depth of the member. Holes shall not be closer than 2 inches, 51 millimeters, to the top or bottom of the member, or to any other hole located in the member. Where the member is notched, the hole shall not be closer than 2 inches, 51 millimeters, to the notch. R504.2.2 Moisture barrier. Polyethylene sheeting of minimum 6 mil, 0.15 millimeter thickness shall be placed over the granular base. Joints shall be lapped 6 inches, 152 millimeters, and left unsealed. The polyethylene membrane shall be placed over the pressure preservative treated wood sleepers and shall not extend beneath the footing plates of the exterior walls. R506.2.3 Vapor Retarder. A 6 mil, 0.006 inch, 152 micron polyethylene or approved vapor retarder with joints lapped not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters, shall be placed between the concrete floor slab and the base course or the prepared subgrade where a base course does not exist. Exception: the vapor retarder is not required for the following: 1. Garages, utility buildings, and other unheated accessory structures. 2. For unheated storage rooms having an area of less than 70 square feet, 6.5 square meters, and carports. 3. Driveways, walks, patios, and other flat work not likely to be enclosed and heated at a later date. 4. Where approved by the building official based on local site conditions. Concrete floors on ground. R506.2.2 Base. A 4-inch thick 102 millimeter base course consisting of clean graded sand, gravel, crushed stone, crushed concrete, or crushed blast furnace slag, passing a 2-inch 51 millimeter sieve, shall be placed on the prepared subgrade where the slab is below grade. Chapter 6 Wall Construction. R602.3.1 Stud Size, Height, and Spacing. The size, height, and spacing of studs shall be in accordance with Table R602.3.5. Exceptions: 1. Utility grade studs shall not be spaced more than 16 inches, 406 millimeters on center, shall not support more than a roof and ceiling, and shall not exceed 8 feet, 2,438 millimeters in height for exterior walls and load-bearing walls, or 10 feet, 3,048 millimeters for interior non-load-bearing walls. R602.6 Drilling and Notching of Studs. Drilling and notching of studs shall be in accordance with the following: 1. Notching. Any stud in an exterior wall or bearing partition shall be permitted to be cut or notched to a depth not exceeding 25% of its width. Studs in non-bearing partitions shall be permitted to be notched to a depth not to exceed 40% of a single stud width. 2. Drilling. Any stud shall be permitted to be bored or drilled provided that the diameter of the resulting hole is not more than 60% of the stud width. The edge of the hole is not more than 5/8 inch, 16 millimeters, to the edge of the stud, and the hole is not located in the same section as a cut or notch. Studs located in exterior walls or bearing partitions drilled over 40% and up to 60% shall be doubled, with not more than 2 successive doubled studs bored. R602.6.1 Drilling and notching of top plate. Where piping or ductwork is placed in, or partly in, an exterior wall or interior load-bearing wall, necessitating cutting, drilling, or notching of the top plate by more than 50% of its width, a galvanized metal tie, not less than 0.054 inch thick, 1.37 millimeters, 16 gauge, and 1.5 inches, 38 millimeters wide, shall be fastened across and to the plate at each side of the opening with not less than 8 10D .148 inch diameter nails having a minimum length of 1.5 inches, 38 millimeters at each side or equivalent. The metal tie must extend not less than 6 inches past the opening. R602.7.4 Non-bearing walls. Load-bearing headers are not required in interior or exterior non-bearing walls. A single flat 2-inch by 4-inch, 51 mm by 102 mm member shall be permitted to be used as a header in interior or exterior non-bearing walls for openings up to 8 feet, 2,438 millimeters in width if the vertical distance to the parallel nailing surface above is not more than 24 inches, 610 millimeters. For such non-bearing headers, cripples, or blocking are not required above the header. R602.10.2 Braced Wall Panels. Braced wall panels shall be full-height sections of wall that shall not have vertical or horizontal offsets. Braced wall panels shall be constructed and placed along a braced wall line in accordance with this section and the bracing methods specified in section R602.10.4. R602.9 Cripple Walls. Foundation cripple walls shall be framed of studs not smaller than the studding above. Where exceeding 4 feet, 1,219 millimeters in height, such walls shall be framed of studs having the size required for an additional story. Cripple walls with a stud height less than 14 inches, 356 millimeters, shall be continuously sheathed on one side with wood structural panels fastened to both the top and the bottom plates in accordance with table R602.31, or the cripple walls shall be constructed of solid blocking. Cripple walls shall be supported on continuous foundations. R603.9.1 Sheathing Materials. Structural sheathing panels shall consist of minimum 7/16 inch thick 11 mm oriented strand board or 15/32 inch thick 12 mm plywood. R606.4.1 Minimum Thickness. The minimum thickness of masonry-bearing walls more than 1 story high shall be 8 inches, 203 millimeters. Solid masonry walls of 1-story dwellings and garages shall be not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters in thickness, where not greater than 9 feet, 2,743 millimeters in height, provided that where gable construction is used, an additional 6 feet, 1,829 millimeters is permitted to the peak of the gable. Masonry walls shall be laterally supported in either the horizontal or vertical direction at intervals as required by section R606.6.4. R607.9 Reinforcement. Glass unit masonry panels shall have horizontal joint reinforcement spaced not greater than 16 inches, 406 millimeters on center, located in the mortar bed joint. Horizontal joint reinforcement shall extend the entire length of the panel, but shall not extend across expansion joints. Longitudinal wires shall be lapped not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters at splices. Joint reinforcement shall be placed in the bed joint immediately below and above openings in the panel. The reinforcement shall have not less than 2 parallel longitudinal wires of size W 1.7 or greater, and have welded cross wires of size W 1.7 or greater. R606.11 Anchorage. Masonry walls shall be anchored to floor and roof systems with half-inch bolt at 8 feet on center, embedded 4 inches minimum, in accordance with the details shown in Figure R606.11.1. R606.11.2 Footings shall be permitted to be considered as points of lateral support. R606.12.2.3.3 Minimum reinforcement requirements for masonry shear walls. Vertical reinforcement of not less than 1 number 4 bar shall be provided at corners within 16 inches, 406 millimeters of each side of openings, with 8 inches, 203 millimeters of each side of movement joints, within 8 inches, 203 millimeters of the end walls, and at a maximum spacing of 10 feet, 3,048 millimeters. Horizontal joint reinforcement shall consist of not less than 2 wires of W1.7, spaced not more than 16 inches, 406 millimeters, or bond beam reinforcement of not less than 1 number 4 bar, spaced not more than 10 feet, 3048 millimeters, shall be provided. Horizontal reinforcement shall be provided at the bottom and top of wall openings and shall extend not less than 24 inches, 610 millimeters, nor less than 40 bar diameters past the opening, continuously at structurally connected roof and floor levels, and within 16 inches, 406 millimeters, of the top walls. R606.12.3 Seismic Design Category D0 or D1. Structures in Seismic Design Category D0 or D1 shall comply with the requirements of Seismic Design Category C and the additional requirements of this section. AAC masonry shall not be used for the design of masonry elements that are part of the lateral force-resisting system. Exception: masonry walls limited to 1 story in height and 9 feet, 2,743 millimeters, between lateral supports need not be designed provided they comply with the minimum reinforcement requirements of sections R606.12.3.2 and R606.12.3.2.1. R608.5.1.4 Proportioning and slump of concrete. Proportions of materials for concrete shall be established to provide workability and consistency to permit concrete to be worked readily into forms and around reinforcement under conditions of placement to be employed, without segregation or excessive bleeding. Slump of concrete placed in removable forms shall not exceed 6 inches, 152 millimeters. Exception: when approved, the slump is permitted to exceed 6 inches, 152 millimeters for concrete mixtures that are resistant to segregation and are in accordance with the form manufacturer's recommendations. Slump of concrete placed in stay-in-place forms shall exceed 6 inches, 152 millimeters. Slump of concrete shall be determined in accordance with ASTM C143. R608.7.1.1 Length of solid wall for wind. Buildings shall have solid walls in each exterior end wall line, the side of a building that is parallel to the span of the roof or floor framing, and sidewall line, the side of a building that is perpendicular to the span of the roof or floor framing, to resist lateral in-plane wind forces. The total length of solid wall segments, TL, in a wall line that comply with the minimum length requirements of section R608.7.2.1, see figure R608.7.1, shall be equal to or greater than the product of the unreduced length of solid wall from tables R608.7.1a through 1c, UR and the applicable reduction factors, if any, from tables R608.7.2, R608.7.3, and R608.7.4, as indicated by equation R6-1. Chapter 7. Wall Covering. R703.1. General. Exterior walls shall provide the building with a weather-resistant exterior wall envelope. The exterior wall envelope shall include flashing as described in section R703.4. R703.2 Water-resistive barrier. 1 layer of number 15 asphalt felt, free from holes and breaks, complying with ASTM D226 for Type 1, felt, or other approved water-resistant barrier shall be applied over studs or sheathing of all exterior walls. Number 15 asphalt felt shall be applied horizontally, with the upper layer lapped over the lower layer not less than 2 inches, 51 millimeters. Where joints occur, felt shall be lapped not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters. Other approved materials shall be installed in accordance with the water-resistant barrier manufacturer's installation instructions. The number 15 asphalt felt or other approved water-resistant barrier material shall be continuous to the top walls and terminated at penetrations and building appendages in a manner to meet the requirements of the exterior wall envelope as described in section R703.1. R703.7 Exterior plaster, stucco. Installation of exterior plaster shall be in compliance with ASTM C926, ASTM C1063, and the provisions of this code. R703.7.1 Lath. Lath and lath attachments shall be of corrosion-resistant materials. Expanded metal or woven wire lath shall be attached with 1.5-inch long, 38 mm, 11 gauge nails having a 7/16 inch, 11.1 mm head, or 7/8 inch long, 22.2 mm, 16 gauge staples, spaced not more than 6 inches, 152 mm, or as otherwise approved. Exception: lath is not required over masonry, cast-in-place concrete, precast concrete, or stone substrates in accordance with ASTM 1063. R703.9.1 Exterior Insulation and Finish Systems, EIFS. EIFS shall comply with the following: 1. ASTM E2568. 2. EIFS shall be limited to applications over substrates of concrete or masonry wall assemblies. 3. Flashing of EIFS shall be provided in accordance with the requirements of section R703.4. 4. EIFS shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. 5. EIFS shall terminate not less than 6 inches, 152 mm above the finished ground level. 6. Decorative trim shall not be face nailed through EIFS. R702.3.5.1 Screw fastening. Screws for attaching gypsum board and gypsum panel products to wood framing shall be type W or type S in accordance with ASTM C1002 and shall penetrate the wood not less than 5/8 inch, 15.9 mm. Gypsum board and gypsum panel products shall be attached to cold-formed steel framing with minimum number 6 screws. Screws for attaching gypsum board and gypsum panel products to cold-formed steel framing less than 0.033 inch, 1 mm thick, shall be type S in accordance with ASTM C1002 or bugle head style in accordance with ASTM C1513 and shall penetrate the steel not less than 3/8 inch, 9.5 mm. Screws for attaching gypsum board and gypsum panel products to cold-formed steel framing 0.033 inch to 0.112 inch, 1 mm to 3 mm thick, shall be in accordance with ASTM C954 or bugle head style in accordance with ASTM C1513. Screws for attaching gypsum board and gypsum panel products to structural insulated panels shall penetrate the wood structural panel facing not less than 7/16 inch, 11.1 mm. Chapter 8. Roof Ceiling Construction. Wood Roof Framing. R806.2 Minimum Vent Area. The minimum net-free ventilating area shall be 1/150th of the area of the vented space. Exception: the minimum net-free ventilation area shall be 1/300th of the vented space provided both of the following conditions are met. R802.3 Ridge. A ridge board used to connect opposing rafters shall be not less than 1 inch, 25 mm nominal thickness, and not less in depth than the cut end of the rafter. Where ceiling joist or rafter ties do not provide continuous ties across the structure, a ridge beam shall be provided and supported on each end by a wall or girder. R802.4.5 Purlins. Installation of purlins to reduce the span of rafters is permitted as shown in Figure R802.4.5. Purlins shall be sized not less than the required size of the rafters that they support. Purlins shall be continuous and shall be supported by 2-inch by 4-inch, 51 mm by 102 mm braces installed into bearing walls at a slope not less than 45 degrees, 0.79 radius from the horizontal. R802.5.2.1 Ceiling joists lapped. Ends of ceiling joists shall be lapped not less than 3 inches, 76 mm, or butted over bearing partitions or beams and toe-nailed to the bearing member. Where ceiling joists are used to provide resistance to rafter thrust, lapped joists shall be nailed together in accordance with Table R802.5.2, and butted joists shall be tied together in a manner to resist such thrust. Joists that do not resist thrust shall be permitted to be nailed in accordance with Table R602.3.1. Wood structural panel roof sheathing in accordance with Table R503.2.1.1.1 shall not cantilever more than 9 inches, 229 mm beyond the gable end wall, unless supported by gable overhead framing. R803.2.3 Installation. Wood structural panel used as roof sheathing shall be installed with joints staggered or not staggered in accordance with Table R602.3.1, APA E30 for wood roof framing, or with Table R804.3 for cold-formed steel roof framing. 807.1 Attic access. Buildings with combustible ceiling or roof construction shall have an attic access opening to attic areas that have a vertical height of 30 inches, 762 millimeters, or greater over an area of not less than 30 square feet, 2.8 meters squared. The vertical height shall be measured from the top of the ceiling framing members to the underside of the roof framing members. The rough framed opening shall be not less than 22 inches by 30 inches, 559 millimeters by 762 millimeters, and shall be located in a hallway or other location with ready access. Where located in a wall, the opening shall be not less than 22 inches wide by 30 inches high, 559 millimeters wide by 762 millimeters high. Where the access is located in a ceiling, minimum obstructed headroom in the attic space shall be 30 inches, 762 millimeters, at some point above the access measured vertically from the bottom of the ceiling framing members. See Section M1305.1.3 for access requirements where mechanical equipment is located in attics. Chapter 9. Roof Assemblies. R905.3.8 Flashing. At the juncture of roof vertical surfaces, flashing and counterflashing shall be provided in accordance with this chapter and the manufacturer's installation instructions, and, where of metal, shall be not less than 0.019 inch, 0.5 millimeters, number 26 galvanized sheet gauge, corrosion-resistant metal. The valley flashing shall extend not less than 11 inches, 279 millimeters from the center line each way, and have a splash diverter rib not less than 1 inch, 25 millimeters in height, at the flow line formed as part of the flashing. R905.8.2 Deck slope. Wood shakes shall only be used on slopes of 3 units vertical in 12 units horizontal, 25% slope or greater. R902.1 Roofing covering materials. Roofs shall be covered with materials as set forth in sections R904 and R905. Class A, B, or C roofing shall be installed in jurisdictions designated by law as requiring their use, or where the edge of the roof is less than 3 feet, 914 millimeters, from a lot line. Class A, B, and C roofing required by this section to be listed shall be tested in accordance with UL 790 or ASTM E108. Exceptions. 1. Class A roof assemblies include those with coverings of brick, masonry, and exposed concrete roof deck. 2. Class A roof assemblies include ferrous or copper shingles or sheets, metal sheets and shingles, clay or concrete roof tile, or slate installed on non-combustible decks. 3. Class A roof assemblies include minimum 16 ounces per square foot of copper sheets installed over combustible decks. 4. Class A roof assemblies include slate installed over underlayment over combustible decks. R905.2.6 Attachment. Asphalt shingles shall have the minimum number of fasteners required by the manufacturer's approved installation instructions, but not less than 4 fasteners per strip shingle or 2 fasteners per individual shingles. Where the roof slope exceeds 21 units vertical and 12 units horizontal, 2112, 175% slope, shingles shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's approved installation instructions. Chapter 10. Chimneys and Fireplaces. Masonry fireplaces. R1001.2 Footings and Foundations. Footings for masonry fireplaces and their chimneys shall be constructed of concrete or solid masonry, not less than 12 inches, 305 millimeters thick, and shall extend not less than 6 inches, 152 millimeters beyond the face of the fireplace or foundation wall on all sides. Footings shall be founded on natural undisturbed earth or engineered fill below frost depth in areas not subjected to freezing. Footings shall not be less than 12 inches, 305 millimeters below finished grade. R1003.10 Wall thickness. Masonry chimney walls shall be constructed of solid masonry units or hollow masonry units grouted solid with not less than a 4-inch, 102 millimeter nominal thickness. R1003.19 Chimney fire blocking. Spaces between chimneys and floors and ceilings through which chimneys pass shall be fire blocked with non-combustible material securely fastened in place. The fire blocking of spaces between chimneys and wood joists, beams, or headers shall be self-supporting or be placed on strips of metal or metal lath laid across the spaces between combustible material and the chimney. R1003.9 Termination. Chimneys shall extend not less than 2 feet, 610 millimeters, higher than any portion of a building within 10 feet, 3,048 millimeters, but shall be not less than 3 feet, 914 millimeters, above the highest point where the chimney passes through the roof. Other. RB. Draft stop. A material, device, or construction installed to restrict the movement of air within open spaces of concealed areas of building components, such as crawl spaces, floor ceiling assemblies, roof ceiling assemblies, and attics. R302.12 Draft stopping. Draft stop. A material, device, or construction installed to restrict the movement of air within open spaces of concealed areas of building components such as crawl spaces, floor ceiling assemblies, roof ceiling assemblies, and attics. In combustible construction where there is usable space, both above and below the concealed space of a floor ceiling assembly, draft stops shall be installed so that the area of the concealed space does not exceed 1,000 square feet, 92.9 meters squared. Draft stopping shall divide the concealed space into approximately equal areas. Where the assembly is enclosed by a floor membrane above and a ceiling membrane below, Draft stopping shall be provided in floor ceiling assemblies under the following circumstances. 1. Ceiling is suspended under the floor framing. 2. Floor framing is constructed of truss type, open web, or perforated members. AE 303.2 Retention of plans. One set of approved plans and specifications shall be returned to the applicant and shall be kept on the site of the building or work at all times, during which the work authorized thereby is in progress. One set of approved plans, specifications, and computations shall be retained by the building official until final approval of the work. E3903.3.1 Stairway Lighting Outlet Control. Where one or more lighting outlets are installed for interior stairways, there shall be a wall switch at each floor level and landing level that includes an entryway to control the lighting outlets where the stairway between floor levels has 6 or more risers. Lighting outlets installed to meet this requirement shall not be controlled by the use of dimmer switches, except where the dimmer switches provide the full range of dimming control at each switch location. 210.70A2. Exception. In hallways, stairways, and at outdoor egress doors, remote, central, or automatic control of lighting shall be permitted. 210.70A2. Exception. AJ 601.1.3. Guards. Every open portion of a stair, landing, or balcony that is more than 30 inches, 762 millimeters above the floor or grade below, is part of the egress path for any work area, and does not have guards, or in which the existing guards are judged to be in danger of collapsing, shall be provided with guards designed and installed in accordance with Section R312. RB. Skylights and sloped glazing. Glass or other transparent or translucent glazing material installed at a slope of 15 degrees, 0.26 radius, or more from vertical. Unit skylights, tubular daylighting devices, and glazing materials in solariums, sunrooms, roofs, and sloped walls are included in this definition. For the definition applicable in Chapter 11, see Section N 1101.6. AE 302.2 Plans and Specifications. Plans, engineering calculations, diagrams, and other data as required by the building official shall be submitted in not less than 2 sets, with each application for a permit. The building official has the authority to require plans, computations, and specifications to be prepared and designed by an engineer or architect licensed by the state to practice as such. Where unusual site conditions do not exist, the building official has the authority to accept approved standard foundation plans and details in conjunction with the manufacturer's approved installation instructions, without requiring the submittal of engineering calculations. Inspections. AE 305.1 General. All construction or work for which a manufactured home installation permit is required shall be subject to inspection by the building official, and certain types of construction shall have continuous inspection by special inspectors as specified in Section AE 306. The building official has the authority to require a survey of the lot to verify that the structure is located in accordance with the approved plans. When continuous inspection is required, 100% of the work must be inspected, and it must be inspected as the work is being performed. When periodic inspection is indicated, inspection of less than 100% of the work may be acceptable. Tables. Table R503.1 Minimum thickness of lumber floor sheathing. 5/8 is the minimum sheathing thickness for floor lumber placed diagonally to joist. Joist or beam spacing 16 inches on center. The minimum sheathing thickness is 11/16 for floor lumber placed perpendicular to joist. Joist or beam spacing 24 inches on center. For SI, 1 inch equals 25.4 millimeters. 1 foot equals 304.8 millimeters. 1 pound per square foot equals 0.0479 kPa. Table R401.4.1. Presumptive load-bearing values of foundation materials. The allowable bearing capacity of soil is the amount of load the soil can take without experiencing shear failure or exceeding the allowable amount of settlement. This is the figure that is used in the design of foundations. Crystal bedrock has load-bearing pressure of 12,000 pounds per square foot. Sandy gravel and foliated rock has 4,000 pounds per square foot. 1,500 bearing pressure for clay, sandy, silty clay, silt, and sandy silt clay, and so on. Pay close attention to these paragraphs. A few questions will be on ICC exam. Table R502.3.11. Floor joist spans for common lumber species. Residential sleeping areas, live load equals 30 PSF, L over delta equals 360. 15 feet 18 inches maximum floor joist spans, which spacing at 12 inches, southern pine number 1 species, and grade, joist size 2x8, structural dead load 10 PSF, pounds per square feet. 18 feet 10 inches maximum floor joist spans, which spacing at 16 inches, hem fir species and number 1 grade, joist size 2x12 and structural dead load 20 PSF, pounds per square foot. Table R602.10.4. Bracing methods. The primary function of bracing is to provide stability and resist lateral loads, either from diagonal steel members or from a concrete core. For bracing frames, beams and columns are designed only to support vertical load, since the bracing system should carry all lateral loads. In Table R602.10.4, depict fasteners type and spacing of materials being used for bracing. Depending on bracing methods and material thickness, they would be different connection criteria, fastening size, and spacing. Structural fiberboard sheathing, which half or 25/32 inch thickness for maximum 16-inch stud spacing, will be connected with 1.5 long by 0.12 inch diameter for half-inch thick sheathing and 1 3/4 long by 0.12 diameter for 25/32 inch thick sheathing. Galvanized roofing nails with spacing 3-inch edges, 6-inch field, and so on. Table R402.2. Minimum specified compressive strength of concrete. Concrete compressive strength can vary from 2,500 psi, 17 MPa, for residential structures to 4,000 psi, 28 MPa, and higher in commercial structures. Some applications use higher strengths, greater than 10,000 psi, 70 MPa. 3,000 psi, pounds per square inch, is a minimum compressive strength of concrete in severe weathering potential for basement walls, foundation walls, exterior walls, and other vertical concrete work exposed to the weather. 2,500 psi is a minimum compressive strength of concrete placing in negligible weathering potential for porches, carport slabs, and steps exposed to the weather, and garage floor slabs. For garage floors with a steel troweled finish, reduction of the total air content, percent by volume of concrete, to not less than 3% is permitted if the specified compressive strength of the concrete is increased to not less than 4,000 psi. Concrete strength at 28 days psi. Concrete in these locations that are subject to freezing and thawing during construction shall be air entrained. Total air content percent by volume of concrete shall be not less than 5% or more than 7%. For SI, 1 inch equals 25.4 millimeters. 1 foot equals 304.8 millimeters. 1 pound per square foot equals 0.0479 kPa. Table 602.3.1 Fastening Schedule. Wood and wood-based products used for load supporting purposes shall conform to the applicable provisions of this section. The nailing schedule is typically 6 inches on center at supported panel edges, including gable end walls, and 12 inches on center over intermediate panel supports. However, a minimum 8D nails, 0.131 by 2.5 inches, are recommended for all panels 5/8 inch thick or less. Fastening spacing schedule depends on structural connection. Here are the main connections that you will face on the ICC exam. Fastening schedule for floor connections. Fastening schedule for wood structural panels. Subfloor, roof, and interior wall sheathing to framing and particle board wall sheathing to framing for wood structural panel exterior wall sheathing to wall framing. Fastening schedule for other wall sheathings. Fastening schedule for wood structural panels, combination subfloor underlayment to framing. Different building elements will get certain number and type of fastener with spacing and location. For example, fastening on floor. Fastening joist to sill, top plate, or girder should have these types of fastener options. 4 to 8D box, 2.5 inch by 0.113 inch, or 3 to 8D common, 2.5 inch by 0.131 inch, or 3 to 10D box, 3 inch by 0.128 inch, or 3 3-inch by 0.131 inch nails with toenail spacing. Line 22. Floor fastening rim joist, band joist, or blocking to sill or top plate. Roof applications also, with fasteners options 8D box, 2.5 inch by 0.113 inch, with 4 inch on center toenail fastening on 3/8 inch to 1/2 inch wood structural panels, subfloor, roof, and interior wall sheathing to framing, and particle board wall sheathing to framing for wood structural panel exterior wall sheathing to wall framing should have these types of fastener options. 6D common, 2 inch by 0.113 inch nail, subfloor wall. 8D common, 2.5 inch by 0.131 inch nail, roof. Or RSRS 01, 2 3/8 inch by 0.113 inch nail, roof, spaced 6 inch to the edges and 12 inch in intermediate supports, and so on. Please review this table very carefully and be ready to get 3 to 4 questions on ICC exam. Table R602.35 Size, height, and spacing of wood studs, A. Spacing and size of wood depend on wall height and building type. For bearing wall in building, which supporting one floor height stud size 2x4 should be spaced 24 inches. For bearing wall supporting one floor plus a roof ceiling assembly or a habitable attic assembly, stud size 2x4 should be spaced 16 inches. And so on. A few questions will appear on ICC Residential Building Inspector exam, so placing a sticker shouldn't be a bad idea. Table R405.1 Properties of soils classified according to the Unified Soil Classification System. In this table, you'll find soil descriptions and properties. There are 4 main soil groups. Each group has a classification system symbol. GW, well-graded gravels, gravel, sand mixtures, little or no fines. GP, poorly graded gravels or gravel sand mixtures, little or no fines. SW, well-graded sands, gravelly sands, little or no fines. SP, GM, SM, and so on. Pay closer attention to the symbols on the exam. In addition to that, soil properties characterized as drainage, frost heave potential, and volume change potential expansion. These characteristics may vary from low to medium to high and may change, depends on what soil type. Please familiarize yourself more closely with Table R405.1. Figure R602.32, Framing Details, Corner and Partition Posts. Note: a third stud and/or partition intersection backing studs shall be permitted to be omitted through the use of wood backup cleats, metal drywall clips, or other approved devices that will serve as adequate backing for the facing materials. Table R703.81, Stone or masonry veneer limitations and requirements. Wood or steel framing, seismic design categories A, B, and C. Maximum height of veneer above non-combustible foundation in seismic design category A, B, 30 feet. Maximum nominal thickness of veneer in seismic design category A, B, 5 inches. Number of wood or steel framed stories in seismic category A or B will be 1 or 2 of steel stories and 1 to 3 of wood stories. An additional 8 feet is permitted for gable end walls. See also story height limitations of section R301.3. Table R403.11. Minimum width and thickness for concrete footings for light frame construction, inches, A, B. Width and thickness for concrete footings depend on load-bearing value of soil, measured in pounds per square feet value, which varies from 1,500 to 4,000 psf. Footings width and thickness size be determined by story and type of structure with light frame and snow load or roof live load measured in pounds per square feet and can be 20, 30, 50, 70 psf for 1, 2, or 3-story slab-on-grade structure with crawl space or with basement. Table R802.4.14. Rafter spans for common lumber species. Ground snow load equals 30 psf, ceiling attached to rafters, L over delta equals 240. Rafter max span is 22 feet and 10 inches when structural ground snow load is 30 psf, dead load 10 psf, ceiling attached to rafters which spaced 12 inches with southern pine number 2. Rafter nominal size is 2 by 12 inches. Rafter max span is 7 feet and 10 inches when structural ground snow load is 30 psf, dead load 20 psf, ceiling attached to rafters. Rafter spaced 16 inches with southern pine number 1. Rafter nominal size is 2 by 4 inches, and so on. Table R802.4.1.2. Rafter spans for common lumber species. Roof live load equals 20 psf, ceiling attached to rafters, L over delta equals 240. Rafter max span is 19 feet and 6 inches when roof live load is 20 psf, dead load 20 psf, ceiling attached to rafters. Rafter spaced 16 inches with Douglas fir, larch number 2. Rafter nominal size is 2 by 10 inches. Rafter max span is 11 feet and 9 inches when roof live load is 20 psf, dead load 10 psf, ceiling attached to rafters. Rafter spaced 12 inches with southern pine number 3. Rafter nominal size is 2 by 6 inches, and so on. Table R608.71a. Unreduced length, UR, of solid wall required in each exterior end wall for wind perpendicular to ridge 1 story or top story of 2 story. 17.75 feet of solid wall is required in each exterior end wall for wind perpendicular to ridge if sidewall length is 60 feet, end wall length 30 feet, structural roof slope 12-12, and a basic wind speed is 120 miles per hour. Unreduced length, UR, 21.31 feet of solid wall required in each exterior end wall for wind perpendicular to ridge if sidewall length is 60 feet, end wall length 60 feet, structural roof slope 712, and a basic wind speed is 140 miles per hour. Please familiarize yourself with this table. A few questions will pop up with this table on ICC exam. Table R702.3.5 Minimum thickness and application of gypsum board and gypsum panel products. 13 gauge 1 3/8 inch long, 19/64 inch head, 0.098 inch diameter, 1 1/4 inch long, annular ringed or 5D cooler nail, 0.086 inch diameter, 1 5/8 inch long, 15/64 inch head, or gypsum board nail, 0.086 inch diameter, 1 5/8 inch long, 9/32 inch head, is the size of nail for application to wood framing without adhesive with 1/2 inch thickness of gypsum board or gypsum panel. Orientation of gypsum board or panel products to framing in either direction or perpendicular. Maximum spacing of framing members varies from 16 to 24, depends on orientation and type of application. The maximum spacing of nails are 7 inches for ceiling application, 8 inches for wall application. The maximum spacing of nails are 7 inches for ceiling application, 8 inches for wall application. The maximum spacing of screws is 12 inches for ceiling and 16 for wall application. Gypsum board application could be with adhesive or without adhesive. Please pay close attention to your exam question and then use this table to find the right answer. Table R702.3.6 Shear capacity for horizontal wood-framed gypsum board diaphragm ceiling assemblies. Shear value 90 pounds per linear foot of ceiling for 1/2 inch of gypsum board or gypsum panel products spaced 16 inches on center and fastened. 5D cooler or wallboard nail, or 1 5/8 inch long, 0.086 inch shank, 15/64 inch head, same fastening type for the shear value of 70 pounds per linear foot of ceiling, spaced 24 inches on center. Table R608.5.41 Lap splice and tension development lengths. Vertical and horizontal reinforcement shall be the longest lengths practical. Where splices are necessary in reinforcement, the length of lap splice shall be in accordance with Table R608.5.41 and Figure R608.5.41. The maximum gap between non-contact parallel bars at a lap splice shall not exceed the smaller of 1/5 the required lap length and 6 inches, 152 millimeters. Table R503.2.1.11 Allowable spans and loads for wood structural panels for roof and subfloor sheathing and combination subfloor underlayment A, B, C. 24/16 span rating for 7/16 inch sheathing thickness where structural span at 16 inches on center with allowable live load of 100 pounds per square feet. 28 inches max span for roof without edge support and 32 with edge support where total load 40 and live load 30 pounds per square foot at maximum span. 48 inches maximum structural panels span for combination subfloor underlayment where total load 50 and live load 40 pound per square foot at maximum span. 7/8 inch minimum panel thickness for underlayment CC plugged single floor with span rating 32 inches on center. Panels continuous over 2 or more spans with long dimension, strength axis perpendicular to supports. Spans shall be limited to values shown because of possible effect of concentrated loads. Maximum span 24 inches for 15/32 and 1/2 inch panels.